hello.
Hello.
Try a bit more enthusiastically. Hello.
Hello. I'm on holiday, of course.
Oh, true. Yeah, let's get this over and done with so you can go back to bed.
No, I'm not going to bed now. I've got bits and pieces to do. Well, actually, although I'm on holiday, I've got little bits of things to do. It'll just give me time to do them without everything else that you've got to stop you, so it'll be done quickly. But I've lit the candle. Are you ready for it?
I am.
It is the fourth week.
Fourth Sunday of Advent. Oh, I haven't got my prayer to hand. Go on.
Get your prayer to hand.
Oh, hang on. Okay, hold on. Ready for the big reveal?
You ready?
Yeah. Thank you. That must have taken hours. I tell you.
Do you think that was all of the preparation I've done for today? Are you really ready? Are you really ready for the big reveal when you've read your prayer? Go on.
Okay.
I'll hold the candle up again with my broken wrist. There we are.
Oh, bless you. So this is the fourth Sunday of Advent.
It is, 4 lit.
We light this candle for all God-bearers, saying yes to God's challenge, accepting the pain and joy of an unknown future. God, as we wait for your promise, give light, give hope. Amen.
Amen. There we are.
That's amazing.
I did say that I'd spent a long time with the First Lady of the Rectory preparing for today.
Yeah, go on. Oh! It's Blue Peter's Advent wreath.
It is. There you are.
Amazing. Look at that. Is that brilliant? And instead of candles, we've got stars.
Well, yeah, because I did think in this age of, Blue Peter obviously never bothered about burning people's houses down. And
you're not.
and so I at no expense in my favourite shop, which you know, of course.
Is this wreath sponsored by Poundland?
The wreath is sponsored by Poundland, except the coat hangers. Don't tell the choir members their robes are on different. It's for the only metal ones I could find. There it is. It's
beautiful. That's made my year. That's fabulous. That is amazing.
When you visit the rectory, you can see it in person. We've got the silvery, shimmery stars in the middle, and the shiny ones either side, then the kind of black, whatever ones.
That's amazing. I just feel like now we should have the fake snow, the children choir, the Salvation Army band. That's how they used to do their Christmas shows, wasn't it? Have I ever told you that I'm a child of Blue Peter? No. My mum and dad met. They both worked on Blue Peter, so they met as they both worked there. So I am a creation. I am the one they made earlier.
There you are. I didn't even have to get the Blue Peter book annual from 1964 out. I remembered how to make it.
64 is a little bit before my time.
I know, but I was 7 then.
7?
7 in 1964.
When did I Blue Peter manuals like that? There's a question. Mum,
I don't know. We stopped buying them, of course, when we got to about 35. We didn't think we needed any. But no, my sister, we had an album. We had the album each year between us. My 2 sisters and I, we shared it, as you did in those days, and you saw all the things that John and whatever got up to.
I used to love it, and I used to love. There was always a story about somebody, and I remember the one about Grace Darling, who rode that life to the lighthouse to change the bulb or rescue the sailor. I can't actually remember the story, but I remember of her picture of her rowing in her rowing boat, drawn in the Blue Peter annual.
Well, my mother, when they made their first ever Advent ring, made one too for us, and each year it was carefully folded down and put back into the box and came out. And even when she was on her own in her 70s, it was the one thing every year that came out and hung in its traditional place.
That's wonderful.
Very tatty by then. I think it had a bauble refreshment once or twice. But
that's just
I just thought I'd excite you for the week ahead, knowing that you're on your own. You've got to cope with this great pleasure.
Got to cope with inevitably the vast number of funerals that will creep in if you're.
No, they won't. No, you're okay. We've arranged that they won't creep in. People aren't going to die this week.
Okay, fair enough. As long as people know, it's okay.
You see, it's that point in time as an ex-nurse when you know that if you say to people only a few more days to Christmas, they kind of
rally.
They get a new rally. Yeah, they get a new rally. So it'll be okay.
Brilliant.
We're okay. So there we are. So I thought I'd cheer you up by making a whatever. And we found a new use last night for face masks.
Go on.
Well, he kind of bent it over with the two hoops hanging down, and he hung the thing on the windowsill, on the curtain rail, over the curtain rail. And it's new use. A new use. I'm going to write a book, 101 uses for a face mask.
That aren't just wearing it over your face.
Yeah. Hamster bed. Hang it up in
hammock. Hamster hammock.
Hamster hammock. Yeah, that'll be another one. That's right. Yeah. Put on your feet if you haven't got any socks.
Yeah, it'd be quite good if you grazed your knee.
It would.
And
It would. Hat.
Tissue.
Yeah. So that's a few. But however, I did go to the extravagant 2 minutes ago before we started of putting a piece of greenery in, just to mislead you.
Excellent. But you must be
we don't have a holly bush. We don't have a holly bush in the vicarage garden, in the rectory garden.
Excellent. Well, we better have our pause then.
Yeah, it's Luke, isn't it, today?
It is. Cleaning the streets outside us, so all I can hear is, in fact, it's going past just now, the sort of enormous street hoover going very slowly. So they're getting up all those leaves, I guess. So yeah, we're in Luke today because Mary is the focus of the fourth Sunday of Advent, and so we get the story of the Annunciation, which for those of us linked to Beaminster is our story linked to our church as well.
It is.
Okie doke. So this is Luke 1. Verses 26 to 38. In the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent by God to a town in Galilee called Nazareth, to a virgin engaged to a man whose name was Joseph of the house of David. The virgin's name was Mary. And he came to her and said, "Greetings, favoured one, the Lord is with you." But she was much perplexed by his words and pondered what sort of greeting this might be. The angel said to her, "Do not be afraid, Mary, for you have found favour with God. And now you will conceive in your womb and bear a son, and you will name him Jesus. He will be great and will be called the Son of the Most High God, and the Lord God will give to him the throne of his ancestor David. He will reign over the house of Jacob forever, and of his kingdom there will be no end." Mary said to the angel, "How can this be, since I am a virgin?" The angel said to her, "The Holy Spirit will come upon you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. Therefore the child to be born will be holy. He will be called the Son of God. And now your relative Elizabeth in her old age has also conceived a son, and this is the 6th month for her who was said to be barren, for nothing will be impossible with God." Then Mary said, "Here I am, the servant of the Lord. Let it be with me according to your word." Then the angel departed from her. So
there we are. The commentators didn't particularly like this passage, so they kind of used every other passage but that one to stimulate us. I guess it's because they don't want to spoil Christmas.
But of course, this would have taken place 9 months before Christmas.
It would. We hope.
And we celebrate it in March, don't we? The Annunciation.
Yeah. We do, on the 25th of March.
It was a couple of years ago, it must have been more than that now, when the Annunciation fell on Good Friday. And obviously we deferred the celebration of the Annunciation, but it was one of those really intriguing kind of juxtapositions when you were thinking about the beginning of the story of Jesus on the day that you kind of came towards the end. And that was a very intriguing year for me.
It was. If I remember right, the Annunciation was transferred to about April the 17th. Or something like that.
But it put a new sheen on Good Friday when you think about beginnings and ends together.
It did. I mean, can you even begin to imagine if you were, that young Mary and you were sat there polishing your halo or whatever you do, what you'd feel when this angel suddenly appeared and says, as usual, don't be afraid.
I know there's some really intriguing things. I mean, I was going to say I don't really want to talk about her being a virgin, but it's exactly what I'm going to do. You know, one of the words that is repeated loads of times is virgin. And it's interesting because her status as a virgin is the only thing she queries with everything, with the whole of that encounter with the angel. The only thing she chucks back at the angel is, how can it be because I'm a virgin? Is it okay? You know, how is this going to be okay? And it's really intriguing that that's the thing that gets chucked back, not like, why on earth has he chosen me? Or, oh my goodness, what a ridiculous ask, or anything like that. So that comes up a lot. And also the fact that, you have found favour with God. When we looked at this in Gin Church a couple of weeks ago, and someone said, imagine that you have found that much favour with God, that he chooses you out of the whole world to be the carrier of his son, the God bearer. That's a lot of favour.
Theotokos, I think, in Greek.
Very good. In fact, about 3 of the only Greek words I know, or I've remembered. Theotokos. Yes. But that's a big burden for a young woman, isn't it?
Of course it is.
Been found favour, of that much favour with God, to be chosen.
I mean, if you put it into the context, I mean, and omit the word you keep on mentioning, I mean, that particular word just means pure and clean, doesn't it? Pure, untouched. Well,
yes, I guess
we presume she was pure and untouched because she told us that she was a virgin. Isn't
that more about the? Well, anyway. Perhaps I shouldn't have never started down this road.
Oh, well, there we are.
It's about purity. I think it's literally about mechanics, isn't it? Isn't she just saying, just let's hold on here? Because she's no naive person. She knows how babies are made.
I would think so.
I don't know. Is it about...
It suggested that she was chosen, favoured, whatever word you want to use, because she was pure.
No, see, because she was...
Whatever that means. Whatever that means.
Yeah, I've got a bit of an issue with that word, but there we are. That's okay. I can live with my issues.
No, it's okay. I would, to be absolutely honest, you're going to have to. But that's beside the point. Can't do much about it from 4 miles distance. However, I mean, it's what I think what I'm trying to say, and I guess it's what you're saying in many ways, it's what interpretation we put on what we read, isn't it? The key thing is, why did God choose Mary out of everybody else in the world?
Yeah, I think that's for me is more important.
Exactly.
We watched a film yesterday. We watched Mulan, which is a Disney film.
I've seen it.
They've just done a live action version of it. And it was really interesting because the whole conceit is that it's a woman having to pretend to be a man in order to go and fight in the Imperial Army in China. It's a very age-old Chinese myth. And there's this fabulous scene where she's talking with the lads, and they're talking about what they find attractive in a woman. And so, of course, she is a woman, but she's pretending to be a man at this point. And so the blokes all sitting around saying, what I find attractive in a woman is her ability to cook and her beautiful body and her, wifeliness kind of stuff. And she says, what I find attractive in a woman is courage, a sense of humour, the ability, intelligence. And they all laugh at her. They say, why would anybody need a courageous, intelligent woman with a sense of humour? That's ridiculous. And I think that for too long, Mary's got stuck in this whole purity thing. And actually, God's chosen her because she's courageous, because she is holy, because she already has a relationship with God, because she is brave, because she is willing to defy convention. So I don't want to talk about Mary's purity because that's a male construct. I want to talk about Mary's courage, Mary's devotion to God, Mary's bravery, Mary's intelligence, Mary's compassion. That's my rant over.
I don't want to talk about any of that because that's a feminist approach. And I like to look at God who's both and all. And and just say he knew her better than anybody else in the world because he created her.
Very true.
And that's all that really matters, because we're not asked to question. You know, it's back to my statement a few months ago. Don't stop questioning what God is doing. Just accept that he done it for a reason. And he chose her because he loved her.
I'm not doing that. I'm not willing to just accept it without some questions.
Yeah, just accept the fact that, because what you are suggesting and what I was suggesting is what we are imposing upon what we want to feel about the reading. I can accept the fact that God chose her because he loved her and he knew her better than anybody else.
Yeah, I will go with you on that one.
Yeah.
And she was brave.
He knew he could trust her, and I'm sure she was brave and courageous, but she'd also been a good girl up to then.
Don't, you're projecting patriarchy onto her again.
I'm not. I'm just accepting God's choice. The man in him knew what was best, you see.
Oh, behave yourself.
Anyway, let's look at this.
Let
us just look at this reading. Just remember the candle. The fourth one is Mary.
Yeah.
It's the biggest and the strongest at the moment.
Oh, well, there you go. Perfect. Works well for me. The other thing I think, it's this reading for me is always about obedience as well.
It is.
About being prepared to take on a vocation that you probably didn't even realise you were being called to until 2 minutes before. And obedience is an interesting word because, again, that could be used to be negative. But in our relationship with God, we have a choice. We always have a choice. And so presumably Mary could have said, no, thank you. But she didn't. She said, let it be for me according to your word. She was willing to be, to make that choice to be obedient. And I often think about her when I think about, the way we choose to follow God. Are we willing to say, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't think you've chosen the right person. This is all a bit of a mess, but I will be obedient to your calling. And that's something.
The thing about it is, although God gives us choice, we know from personal experience that when God does really demand of us our life or our time, it's impossible to escape.
Yeah, it gets us one way or the other.
And we've experienced that call ourselves. I don't think it's as great a call or as great a danger as Mary, because that's the problem, isn't it? Mary knew what the law was and what could have happened to her. Mm. And we pick that up a little bit later on with the story with Joseph.
Yeah.
But she still responds, as you say, here I am, a servant of the Lord. Take me, use me.
And it's always risky, isn't it? You're right. There was the cultural risk of how she was then going to convince Joseph that this wasn't just, a fall from grace, if they wanted to put it that way. And potentially avoid the cultural punishment of the time, which could have been just being ostracised or worse.
Stoned to death.
Well, maybe, but not necessarily.
Ultimately, yeah.
And also the risk of childbirth, because I know it was what women did all the time, every day, but it wasn't without its risk. Still isn't without its risk, and so that's a very risky thing she's having to do to God. And I often think that about the incarnation, is that the whole plan to me seems inherently risky. But I guess God is in control, so that's okay. But the chances of it falling or failing at all kinds of different points seem quite risky to me.
I think there's a problem there, because I don't think all women were doing it all the time, every day, because some were collecting water from the well and some were sweeping up and stuff.
What, having babies?
And they're too busy to have babies. They were busy doing everything else.
Yes, for the men. Anyway.
For the men, yes, absolutely. You're right. In one. Keep on going.
While we're on controversial subjects, yeah. I once had a real telling off when I preached on this passage.
Did you really?
Yes, I find it hard to believe. Me, so obedient, meek and mild. Verse 37, for nothing will be impossible with God. And I used that line in a sermon once and I got absolutely roundly told off. Mm. And I said, but that's what it says. Yeah, but that's false hope, apparently. And I thought, no, it is the explanation for the unknown, isn't it? For the unknowable. That
I
nothing
thought you.
could possibly
I thought you were going to say you'd suggested that God was a woman, so nothing was impossible with him.
with her. Well, I could do that too.
But you didn't.
Well, God is fully man, fully woman.
Yes, exactly.
If we're both made in his image, then presumably we are captured in his image. So, you know, I don't have a problem with that.
Just like Father Christmas.
Just like Father Christmas.
We're all made in God's image.
Oh, I see. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
I thought you were going to say we were all made in Father Christmas's image.
He brings gifts as well, you see. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a lovely reading. We hear it every year because of our patronal festival, and I never lose any of the sense of the wonder and the awe and the I don't use the word magic because that's suggestive of other things, but there is something just almost magical about the wonderful story and how obedient Mary is and her response. Because I guess if it were to happen to one of us today, we'd really question what it is God was actually asking of us or saying to us. And as you say, she could have said, "No, not today, God. I'm busy. I'm washing my hair, or I've got to go shopping, or I've got to download the latest, whatever." And she doesn't. She doesn't. It's that great response. And of course, angels, they keep on appearing, don't they?
They are quite busy in the Christmas story, as we highlighted in our Message Church video this week.
They're very, very busy. They're very, very busy. They keep coming. And even 9 months before the Christmas story, they're obviously busy because he came and told her. And then he disappeared again, off to do some other work for God somewhere else, of course. So we know the part in this story plays in Christmas because we have hindsight, so we know all the story. You can imagine the early people reading this story when Luke first wrote it, can't you? It must have really grasped them in some way.
It's an odd story, isn't it? There's some very, but it's pieced together, isn't it? It's the jigsaw of trying to work out the origin of this amazing man.
It's also Luke telling the story in a kind of sequence, isn't it? So it all makes sense, because what does Mary do as soon as she's been told? She then sets off to go and see Elizabeth. Yeah.
I realise I've come to the age where I identify more with Elizabeth than Mary now.
Oh dear, never mind. Never mind.
That's okay.
Good, Elizabeth. Because she, of course, the thing about it is she's expecting as well.
I know, that would be even more terrifying.
It could be. And then she goes to see him, and we know that this first sign of God being this special, or the child inside Mary being this special person, because John leaps about inside Elizabeth. But then suddenly, a few verses later, John the Baptist is all over the place again.
Yeah, it's the origin stories, and of course in Advent we come at them in a really odd order, don't we? Because we go through the prophets to John the Baptist and then back to the Annunciation, which is kind of like, in chronological terms, we jump about thousands of years. It doesn't make any kind of sense, but it's setting the scene, I guess. That's why the fourth Sunday of Advent takes us back to Mary, because without Mary, you couldn't have a Christmas. No. And, without Mary, you couldn't have in the same way, you wouldn't have had the crucifixion and the resurrection either.
That's right.
So there's this huge, he is responsible through God's plan for the salvation of the world, which is quite astounding, really.
Yeah, I think it all fits together if you look at the fact we've had prophets, and we had John the Baptist prophet again, and really this is beginning to tell us that the prophecy is about to be fulfilled. The child's there, ready to come, and then the next candle, should the oasis last long enough, will of course remind us that Christmas Day is about the light of the world and Christ coming into it.
Excellent. Well, we better stop, because otherwise you'll have burnt your fourth candle before we've even got.
No, you're okay. I've got some new ones in ready stock just in case.
Excellent.
So there we are.
Thank you for joining us today. Have a good rest of the week off, David. Thank you for the Blue Peter Advent wreath. That's wonderful.
It's very sparkly, isn't it?
It is. It's gorgeous. Excellent.
I'll be back there for the time being.
Do check out what's going on our website, beaminsterteamchurches.org. All the Christmas services are there. If you want to come to church this Christmas, do just double check. You might have to reserve your place. And do reserve your place. I think some people are waiting and hedging their bets, which I can understand completely. But we do need to know whether people are coming to church or not this year, which is an odd thing. But if you are keen to be in church at all this year, please just pop your name on a list somewhere. And everything continues, Advent journeys, reflections and Advent calendars on our social media at Beaminster Team. And yeah, lots of things going on.
There is. It's the beginning of the great rev up to the onslaught for services, isn't it?
Keep going. All is well.
Absolutely.
We'll see you very soon. In fact, we'll see you next week. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.